There is an unknown universe within each of us, a silent but full of meanings, where there are hidden answers we seek without realizing it. This territory cannot be touched or seen, but manifests itself in deep feelings, subtle signs that insist on drawing our attention. But why do so many people feel that there is something missing, as if they are disconnected from themselves? Why do we repeat patterns that seem to imprison us in empty relationships, frustrating choices, and a real meaning? Carl Jung believed that this sense of disconnection happens because we stop listening to ourselves. Instead of turning inside, we get lost in external distractions, trying to fill a void that can only be understood only from the inside out. This distance does not only affect our emotional, but also shapes our choices, our bonds, and even our health. If you are reflecting on everything we have talked so far, if the idea of prioritizing and embracing your authenticity has resonated with you, I want to ask for a favor. Don't let this moment go without giving this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support is critical for us to continue bringing content like this, which help us grow and transform our lives for the better. Now tell me, have you had any experience in which you had to prioritize your own needs and emotions? How did this impact your life and the relationships around you? Share with us in the comments, because I would love to know your story. What's more, if this video has touched your heart, share it with someone you know can also benefit from this message. Together, we can spread the importance of self-knowledge and authenticity for more people. Oh, and tell me which city you are watching. Let's see where we are creating a community of people who are looking for more clarity and purpose. For Jung, the solution is what he called the shadow integration, a process of recognition and acceptance of what we repressed. These are forgotten memories, contained emotions, and ignored fears that continue to influence our lives, even without realizing it. These shadows do not disappear simply because we avoid them. On the contrary, they accumulate as an arrested energy, demanding to be released. Making this reality requires courage, as it means facing weaknesses, recognizing failures, and taking responsibility for what we deny for so long. You may have already experienced this restlessness, that inexplicable tiredness at the end of the day, a resistance when trying to change something, or even the feeling of carrying an invisible weight. These are not mere whims of the mind. They are deep signs of the unconscious trying to communicate. Jung argued that the unconscious does not speak of words, but in symbols and emotions. It is like a secret language that we can only understand when we silence distractions and turn our attention inward. Each time we ignore these signs, we get further away from who we really are, accumulating an emotional burden that silently wears us. Many times, we learn that prioritizing others is an act of kindness, but does it not move us away from our own essence? To live with authenticity, it is essential to rescue this inner connection. This does not mean acting with selfishness, but developing a true self-love, algo that Jung considered essential to a full existence. Self-love is not just a superficial concept, but a deep commitment to yourself. It is learning to set limits, to say no without guilt, and above all, to allow yourself to be who you really are, without masks or fear of judgment. Carl Jung stated that only by embracing our true essence could we achieve the emotional balance we seek so much. However, this process requires courage, as it implies leaving behind what is no longer part of who we are. At certain times, this may mean giving up bonds, behaviors, or even ambitions that no longer resonate with our identity. Think of your life like a garden. If weeds are not removed, they will eventually suck the nutrients needed for flowers to grow healthy. Likewise, when we allow negative standards, exhausting relationships, or unresolved insecurities take over our journey, we prevent our own flowering. Freeing yourself from these strings is an act of strength, but also of trust. Confidence that by eliminating what weighs, you will be creating space so that new possibilities and experiences more aligned with your true self may arise. This process, however, will not always be accepted by those around you. Some people may interpret this transformation as selfishness and try to make you feel guilty for finally putting yourself first. And this is where one of Jung's most striking teachings comes in. The external world is a reflection of our inner world. If within you there is serenity and clarity, the situations and connections that will arise in your life will also reflect this state. It is not necessary to prove anything to anyone. Just follow your path firmly. When you become your priority, surprising changes begin to happen. His gaze transforms, his energy is renewed, and what once seemed unattainable becomes unexpectedly. The universe somehow responds to its decision to align with oneself. Jung called this phenomenon of synchronicity, moments when events and meetings occur so accurately that they seem organized by fate. But this harmony is not the result of chance. It arises when we are in tune with our own essence. The route will not always be easy. There will be days of uncertainty, times when fear will try to make it hesitate. But every step towards authenticity will lead you closer to a genuinely significant life. Jung has taught us that the purpose of existence is not to avoid suffering, but to attribute a meaning. When we face our pains with courage, they become the way to our transformation. Now reflect, what parts of yourself have you left aside? What feelings, aspirations, or needs have been silenced to meet the expectations of others? And more importantly, what could change in your life if you finally allowed yourself to hear and meet your own needs? The answers to these questions will not only redefine your trajectory, but will also reveal the greatness you already live within you. When you start listening to these internal signs and make the decision to follow your own truth, something deep reveals itself. It is as if a door that once seemed locked to open, allowing an intense but smooth light to illuminate the path you had never considered before. This light is the essence of who you really are, its true version, which has always been there, but has often been forgotten due to external demands. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious is not only a repository of trauma and fears, but also a rich and abundant source of wisdom and answers. It is full of keys that can open doors for understanding, clarity, and even healing. Have you ever wondered why certain people seem to drain your energy? Or why do you find it difficult to escape certain behavioral patterns, especially in relationships? Or who knows, why, despite all your effort, do you feel that you are not advancing in life as you would like? These answers, Jung taught us, are not out of you, but inside, waiting to be discovered. You may have realized that certain situations, people, or even places provoke intense emotions in you, such as anger or an inexplicable sadness. Jung explained that these reactions are, in fact, reflexes of their shadow. Those parts of you that have been repressed or denied to adjust to external expectations. However, there is a great secret to learn. These emotions are not enemies, they are masters. They have something valuable to teach us, such as which wounds still need healing, or which aspect of their being needs to be embraced most kindly. The journey of integrating its shadow is painful, yes, but also deeply necessary. This requires a radical honesty with yourself, a sincere look, and without masks in the soul mirror, accepting even what you don't like in you. For as Jung stated, what does not become conscious tends to manifest in our lives as destination. That is, if you keep denying or avoiding facing your own shadows, they will materialize in new ways until you choose finally face them. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack full of stones. Each stone represents an unresolved emotion, buried fear, or a bond that you insist on maintaining, even if toxic. These stones may seem small at first glance, but their accumulated weight makes it difficult to walk, preventing you from moving on. The good news is that you have the power to open this backpack, observe each of these stones, and decide what you really need to carry. To release these luggage is not to forget what happened, but to learn from what was lived and consciously decide what no longer serves. This act of releasing what is no longer useful is one of the most liberating and transformative experiences you can live. And in doing so, you start walking towards authenticity, your true self. Deciding to put yourself first is not only an act of self-love, but also a deep message sent to your unconscious that you are ready to receive something better in your life. When you make this decision, a transforming process begins to happen. Your energy changes, and this inner change is reflected on your exterior, positively affecting your reality. Jung had a very clear view of how the outside world is, in fact, a reflection of our inner world. According to him, by changing our perception and the feelings we carry within us, the universe around us begins to react. When you choose to prioritize, you can see that certain relationships and situations begin to move away. This does not happen by chance, but it is a natural realignment of your life. Circumstances and people who are not in tune with their true being withdraw, creating space for what really corresponds to their truth. This process can be painful, but it is fundamental to allow the new and what really matters. As you follow this path, you begin to perceive curious phenomena happening in your life. People who have the same purpose begin to appear. Relationships that really inspire it begin to flourish, and experiences that once seemed distant become more affordable. This is the concept of synchronicity that Jung so well described, the feeling that everything happens at the right time, in the right place, with the right person. However, coming to this state of tune is not simple. To achieve this transformation, the courage to prioritize is essential. The biggest obstacle is not in others, but in ourselves. That inner voice that constantly tells us that we are not good enough, that we do not deserve love or success, that we need to accept what we have, often prevents us from moving forward. Jung called this voice internal critic. It has been formed over the years by external criticism, the imposition of expectations of others, and the accumulated failures. However, this voice is not your true self. It is just an echo of past experiences, a distorted perception of who you really are. And the good news is that you have the power to be silent, replacing it with a new, more positive and authentic narrative. When you start to treat yourself with more compassion and understanding, something magical occurs. You start to trust your decisions, to feel more security in your choices, and, most importantly, you begin to believe that you are able to create a life that really inspires you. The approval of others is no longer necessary for your happiness, as you find that the only validation that matters is yours. This is the true meaning of prioritizing, giving permission to be happy, even if it means disappointing those who do not understand. Life does not have to be a constant struggle, but a journey of self-knowledge, growth, and connection with what really matters. To live fully, you must be willing to look inside, confront your shadows, and release everything that no longer serves your purpose. This is Carl Jung's invitation. Know yourself, not as others expect you to be, but as you really are. And when you allow yourself to go through this path, something extraordinary begins to happen. You start to remember who you really are, not the mask you use for the world, nor the image you try to project, but your authentic self, that unique being who has always been there, waiting to be recognized. And in living from this authenticity, your life becomes deep and unexpected ways. The most beautiful is that by living according to your truth, you also inspire others to do the same. When you start to reconnect with your real self, a new world opens before you. It is as if life, after a long period of apathy, finally began to reveal its true meaning. This awakening does not happen suddenly, but as a series of gradual discoveries, where each self-discovery step is gradually reorganizing the pieces of its existence. Jung talked about the path of individuation, which is the process of becoming who you really are, beyond the external impositions, the identities you carry, and the expectations of society. But contrary to popular belief, this process is not a straight and simple line. Often it looks like a cycle, a spiral. You go a little, retreat, and there are times when you feel completely disoriented, and that is normal. Even in times of greater uncertainty, you are actually advancing, because each movement, even if it seems like a mistake, brings it closer to its true essence. The biggest obstacle is not the world around you, but the internal resistance you find. There is a part of yours that clings to the family member, even if this family member does not bring happiness or peace. The human mind tends to cling to the acquaintance because the unknown is scary. But in fact, the greatest transformation happens precisely by overcoming the limits of what is comfortable. Jung believed that true evolution happens in times of uncertainty, when we are challenged to give up our old beliefs about who we are, to make room for what is to come. And most importantly, remember that even though it's a deeply personal journey, you're not alone. All, at some point in life, face their fears and insecurities. And in a way, this struggle is shared by all of us, connecting us to human experience in a universal way. The confrontation with the shadows is an inevitable experience, and Jung teaches us that these shadows are not enemies. They are parts of ourselves that still need to be recognized. Each conflict situation, every intense emotion, every united reaction is a sign that there is something within you that has not been fully understood. These are these moments that invite you to ask themselves, what am I ignoring inside me? What aspects of my life need to be seen and accepted? Although confronting these internal issues is uncomfortable, it is at the same time a liberation. You begin to realize that it is not as fragile as you thought, and that you have the strength necessary to face the pain, process it, and transform it. With that, you start rescuing your personal power. It no longer needs the approval of the other, because it finds that everything it needs is within itself. True change only occurs when we realize that the answers we are looking for are not in external sources, but in our own being. Those relationships that did not work, the work that did not bring the expected accomplishment, or the goal that seemed unreachable, are not flaws, but reflexes that show what we need to learn about ourselves. Carl Jung has taught us something deep. Even moments of pain play a crucial role in our development. Each experience, however difficult, carries in itself the opportunity for growth, bringing us closer and closer to our true self. However, evolving does not mean that obstacles will no longer arise. Life is a continuous cycle of new challenges and learning, always offering new lessons to strengthen us. However, when we decide to prioritize, we hear our essence and follow our intuition. We face these adversities in a different way. Instead of succumbing to weakness, we begin to deal with fears with a renewed force. This does not mean that fear disappears, but that it loses the power to paralyze us. Intuition is undoubtedly one of the most powerful forces we have. Jung believed that it is the bridge between our conscious and the unconscious, guiding us to what is most aligned with our soul. However, listening to our intuition requires practice, as we live in a society that encourages us to doubt ourselves and seek answers outside of us instead of within. Reinforcing this confidence in our intuition is an act of rebellion, but also of deep self-love, capable of generating a true transformation in our lives. Each time we choose to put our needs first, we strengthen this internal connection. We begin to perceive subtle signs around us, a sudden idea, an inexplicable feeling, or a persistent feeling that arises for no apparent reason. These are not simple accidents, but signs of our unconscious, pointing out that we are going in the right direction. When we allow ourselves to hear these signs, we realize that we are no longer walking aimlessly. There is an inner compass, always present, just hoping that we trust it. When we follow our intuition, our way of living transforms completely. Decisions that once seemed complicated now flow more easily, and the opportunities we sought begin to appear. The most significant, however, is the deepest connection we have with ourselves. This connection is not in something distant or out of us. She has always been here, waiting for us to stop to recognize her. Jung believed that the most important relationship we can cultivate is what we have with us, and this is a truth that we often forget amid the demands of modern life. We constantly live by trying to meet the expectations of others, fitting into standards that are imposed on us. That's why we rarely ask ourselves, what do I really want? What makes me feel done? These are simple questions, but they have an immense power of transformation. True fullness is not in search of perfection or approval of others, but in the courage to be authentic. Being authentic means looking inside and embracing all parts that we sometimes prefer to hide. The shadow, as Jung said, should not be feared but understood. Each fragment of our shadow contains an important lesson, something that can help us evolve. To access this wisdom, we need to look inside with courage and curiosity. We should not fear feelings like anger, sadness, or guilt, emotions that we often try to repress or avoid. They are, in fact, important signs of what needs to be healed and integrated on our journey. Emotions such as anger, sadness, and guilt are often seen as something to be avoided or repressed. However, these emotions are not enemies, but messengers that carry valuable lessons. Anger, for example, may be a sign that your limits have been exceeded, asking you to define them more clearly. Sadness, in turn, reflects the value you attribute to what was lost, a reminder of the importance of what is gone. Already the guilt, by making us reflect on our actions, opens the door for learning and personal growth. Jung taught us that the problem is not in the emotions themselves, but in how we react to them. Ignoring them is the real challenge. By deciding to prioritize and hear your emotions, you begin to turn them from enemies into allies. Instead of trying to control them, it understands them, using them as tools to better understand. This change in perspective is an essential step for emotional healing. The healing process cannot happen without you allow yourself. When you surrender to the flow of emotions without judging them, something inside you breaks free. Emotional healing is not a sudden event, but a journey that requires patience and disposition. Each layer of life accumulated throughout life deserves to be explored with attention and respect. Although this path may be uncomfortable, it is deeply restorative. Each time you choose to face your emotions instead of running away from them, you are closer to becoming who you really are. Another fundamental aspect of prioritizing yourself is learning to set limits. Jung believed that limits are a way to protect our energy and honor our lives. When you allow someone to exceed your limits without question, you are sending your unconscious the message that your needs are not important. However, by learning to say no firmly and love, you affirm your right to live according to your essence. These limits are not barriers to isolate others, but ways to protect what is sacred to you. By tracing your limits, you not only take care of your emotional well-being, but it also teaches others how to treat it with respect. It's a challenge, especially if you are used to putting others' needs ahead of yours. However, this is an act of essential self-love. Prioritizing not means becoming selfish or indifferent to others, but acting from a place of abundance and not exhaustion. When you are at peace with yourself, you have much more to offer others. Jung believed that only when we are authentic can we establish true connections, and the relationships that flourish from authenticity are the ones that really transform our lives. As you follow this path, you will notice that some relationships begin to change. As you walk your journey, some connections may deepen while others begin to disappear. This, although painful, is totally necessary for your growth. Those who are truly connected with their essence tend to remain by their side, while those who no longer vibrate at the same frequency end up following their own ways. This is a natural part of its evolution. The most fascinating of giving yourself the priority is that it does not only affect your life, but also has the power to inspire those around you. His decision to live authentically serves as a powerful example for others to be wondered, to reconnect with their own truth, and take action aligned with what they really are. When you start prioritizing your emotional well-being by embracing your authenticity and confronting your shadows, you start a deep transformation process, not only for yourself, but also for everyone around you. This path of self-knowledge can be challenging, but the results are immeasurable. You recover your vitality, mental clarity, and rediscover the purpose that has always been within you. Your reality begins to reflect who you really are, not what the circumstances or expectations of others have imposed on you. Jung teaches us that true transformation happens when we allow ourselves to face, not escape, of adversity. By giving you priority to your journey, you break free from everything that no longer resonates with your being, rebuilds more authentic relationships, and begins to live a fuller life. This is not just a gift for you, but for everyone around you. Because by living according to your truth, you light a flame that also motivates others to do the same. Think about the impact that your authenticity journey may have if you share it with those who need it. Perhaps someone around you is going through a moment of disconnection with yourself, or stuck in standards you do not understand. This video can be the starting point for this person's healing and self-discovery. So what do you think of all that we talked about? Have you realized how often we put ourselves in the background to please others or follow a path that is not really ours? How has your relationship with your emotions and limits been? I know it can be difficult, but taking this step towards self-knowledge is essential to living more clearly and authenticity. Have you ever been through a situation where you had to learn to prioritize yourself? How was this process for you? I really want to know your opinion, so share your story in the comments. If this video has played you, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive more content that will help you strengthen this journey of transformation. Together, we can build a stronger and more true community where everyone has the opportunity to live according to their essence. Oh, and tell me too, which city are you watching from? I would love to know more about your place and how we can connect even more. Thanks for being here, and remember, the real change begins within us. We see each other in the next video.